So we jump in the new studio, and of course there are a couple of teething problems. And the first one being, we have fiber connected to the studio, and then all of a sudden there's no power. So we're running off of generators. So if you guys can hear in the background that humming noise, I apologize. I really do. We've tried our best, but we're sitting down, we're pumping out the podcast because I'm so excited to tell you guys with all the different adventures I've been on in the past couple of weeks. Like I said to you guys, unfortunately, there was a little bit of a delay. However, I'm back, baby. And we've got a lot to talk about, of course. Supporting the mega initiative, Donald Trump. We'll get that. We'll touch base on that a little bit later in the podcast. But before I get into it, guys, everyone at Carbon TV, thank you so much for tuning in. This will be my first solo podcast on Carbon TV. I'm looking forward to this one. And once again, those of you guys that have utilized the platform to follow me and join me on this incredible adventure, thank you so much for tuning in. It's an absolute honor to sit here in front of you guys, number one. And number two, it's been a massive dream of mine to share my passion across the world. And joining the Carbon TV program was just part of that exciting journey. So I'm amped. I'm very, very excited. I've got a lot to share with you guys. And we're looking forward to this episode. Before we get into it, next week, I challenge my inner athlete. Those of you that don't know that but have followed my story, you guys would have known I played professional sports when I left school for a couple of years. Unfortunately, depression, injuries, and all that sort of stuff saw me jump off the horse. However, finding my way back into it now, I've joined my brother as he attempts his, I think it's 5th or 6th half Ironman. This will be my very first one down in Mossel Bay in the Western Cape. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you so much to everyone that has contributed to this incredible journey, because we are doing it for a fantastic cause. The month of November is Men's Mental Health Awareness or Drive campaign for the month of November. It's called Brovember, and we've decided that we are going to be hitting the tarmac, hitting the sea, and hitting the cycle gear to raise awareness for our fellow men out there. Those of you, once again, that know, I suffered severely from depression, obviously led to my divorce and where I situated a couple of years ago. However, I found myself after 2 failed attempted suicides, I still get to sit here in front of the mic and share my story across the world, which is something very, very special to me. And those of you guys that are going through something tough, through something difficult, and you think that the light at the end of the tunnel is not coming, it's there. You just got to keep putting one foot in front of the other, and I promise you now, it will all work out in the end. Just don't give up. Don't give up. Find a fellow man. Find somebody out there that you can share your story with, or just is out there to listen to you. And that's the most important thing, is that we just talk. It could be the biggest load of bullshit under the sun. However, it's still something. Somebody's still listening to you. You're sharing your opinion. You're voicing your inner anger, your frustration, whatever it may be that's getting you in these slumps. Voice it, because there's nothing worse than sitting around and letting it mill in your head and not coming to the end of it. But like I said, and I've said this in numerous amounts of videos, there's always light at the end of the tunnel. Be the bison. Head full steam into that storm, because you are going to come out of it a successful man, a better man than what you were yesterday. So enjoy the ride. It's going to be rocky at times, but I promise you now, it's worth the journey. And I'm a living fact of that. So if you guys have got any questions, or even just want to reach out, please, by all means, guys, you know my social media platforms, YouTube, Carbon TV, wherever you guys find it beneficial to contact me on, and I will try my level best to contact you as soon as I possibly can. Those of you that have, I want to say thank you for reaching out, and you guys know that I always interact as much as I possibly can. So once again, thank you so much for that. But yeah, we head out next week, Thursday, to attempt the 70.3 Mossel Bay Ironman half marathon. This is an exciting time for me, and I can't wait. I've trained my butt off to get to this point, and I'm really excited now to put myself to the test, and let's see how far we can get. And of course, ultimately, once I get to put that medal around my neck, I'll look back at this and say it was all worth it at the end. I hope so. Be my first one. It hasn't been the easiest time, but we get in there. We get in there, and I'm enjoying every step of the way. But yeah, guys, so much to talk about. Of course, we've just touched base on the half Ironman coming up next week. But it's all about what happened 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks? Is it 2 weeks? It's a couple more, about 3 weeks ago. My hunt in the United States. Now, look, I don't want to stop things, but before I get deep into this, you guys might see that somewhere along the line we're gonna have a change of scenery because I'm sure the light above me is not gonna have enough battery to carry me through this podcast. So I apologize about that. Like I said, we're on generator, so we're operating as minimal gear as possible. I know that sounds like a bullshit excuse, but we are upgrading the studio. As you guys can see, we started off with fiber. We're going to head into solar next, so I'm looking forward to that one. So yeah, just wanted to apologize firstly. Just keep that in mind. So when there is a bit of change in scenery, don't think I'm running away from you guys or whatever it may be. But so yeah, let's talk USA. It's been a long time dream of mine to head out across the world. I've already done Spain. Now the US was a wonderful opportunity. The Sika tag came up, and I took it with open arms. Pat phoned me up. He was like, "Listen, I've got a spare tag. Are you keen? You're going to fly halfway across the world for a very, very rare opportunity to take out a Sika deer." Now, Sika deer, for me, I had very little knowledge on them, but obviously once I found out that I was going to be hunting this specific species, immediately jumped on Google and just started doing as much research as I possibly can, shot placements and stuff. This was going to be an archery hunt because these were archery tags. It was in archery season, and the excitement grew when the guy said to us, there's a massive possibility that we'll be catching them in the rat. Or even just the start of the rat, which was awesome for me. I've always, there's something about the North American species that I've always dreamt about hunting in the rat. Elk is number one on my bucket list. I've hunted many species in South Africa, but I think there must be nothing more hair-raising than listening to an elk bugle across a valley. And for me, that is my ultimate bucket list animal. I would love one day I don't even have to shoot it with an archery, but just to sit in those hills and listen to these animals bugle across these vast valleys would be an absolute overwhelming experience for me. Pretty much when I watch a hunting episode of any one of my favorite YouTubers, I always look for their elk episodes, and elk in archery specifically because of the bugling. So anyway, once we figured out that this tag was going to be in archery season, I immediately got buzzing, and I was like, I'm so keen, I'm so pumped up for this because this is going to be one special hunt because I'm going to be able to hear a Sika deer bugle across these swamp plains. It was a very weird setup, but I'll get into that. So just a little bit of history about the Sika deer was brought over, I forget the gentleman's name now, it was at the tip of my tongue and I actually wrote it down, but I must have misplaced that piece of paper somewhere. But he brought these things over from Japan or inherited them from Japan somehow, and just kind of like got into Maryland or into Cambridge area specifically where we were, and he just kind of let them free just to see how they would do. Pretty much a lot like the story like the Oryx down in Texas and all that sort of stuff. So I might have my facts incorrect, but that's pretty much what I read up about it. So they kind of made the swamps home, and being a Japanese deer, Japan is well known for its swampy areas and stuff, so they adapted incredibly well. That's one thing I must say about the North American species, is that their adaptation to different conditions is huge. I mean, from my experiences, from what the axis deer and those sort of things, yes, they're Indian deer that have come over or they've migrated to the northern hemisphere, but those sort of species, those northern hemisphere deer species, their adaptation programs, their ability to adapt to different conditions is intense. It's incredible to see. So yeah, we headed out, and you kind of get you get like these basic prep messages from Pat, and he's an absolute beaut, and we've come a long way together. So I kind of anticipated it from them. There was not much to feed off of. Always like, oh, you got to get yourself a good set of boots, and you got to get yourself a good set of waders, and what. So here I am in South Africa, as dry as bones out here, and I'm heading over to apparently where, you walk around for a couple of minutes and your feet come kind of crawling out of your shoes like granny toes and stuff. So anyway, so I didn't have much to work off of. All I knew is it was going to be hot, humid, and please pack mosquito nets. Okay, so there's going to be bugs. Now, I'm used to bugs because of some of my North African experiences with tsetse flies up in the Congo jungle and all that sort of stuff. It's so you kind of gear with like your long sleeve tights and stuff, because bugs, no matter what happens, the sheer volume of bugs, the chances are that one of them or two or three of them are going to get through your barrier of protection and bite you somewhere along the line. So yeah, and I was a little bit nervous to travel with a lot of the bug deterrents that we have here in South Africa, because of like tabots and stuff like that. A lot of it's got like these big flammable things on the side. So I was just a little bit scared to take it in my carry-on. So I thought, well, not my carry-on, my luggage. So I thought, well, you know what? I mean, America is pretty much more resourceful than what South Africa is. So I'll just get whatever I need over that side. So I packed what I needed, and try to pack as light as I possibly could. And of course, I took my trusty Magnum 375. We cranked it up to 70 pounds. I went over to Magnum Archery the week before I left, and I sat down with Seppi. That was an experience on its own, but I managed to sit down with Seppi, and we kind of like fine-tuned my Magnum bow. I'm absolutely dialed in on that thing. I've never felt so confident behind a bow than what I did with my Magnum at the moment. I had to re-sight it in because we made some final adjustments with the peep sight and all that sort of stuff. So when I got back from Magnum, I had a week before I left to pretty much throw arrows at a target and make sure I'm as dialed in as possible. And I was so confident up to 40 yards, 60 even, but past 60 I was pushing it a little bit. I think my arrow flex was a little bit wrong, but for what we needed it for, I mean, our further shot, I think I ranged on one of the stands was like, I think 38 yards, I think it was. So I knew it wasn't going to be long shots, and I knew all I needed to be was dialed in at 40. So when the night before I left, I was pretty pumped up. I was like, this is gonna work out perfectly well. All we need now is for the deer to come in. That's it. All the prep work, I've never been more prepared for a hunt, because I'm flying halfway across the world. The last thing I want to do is get there and be unprepared. So anyway, my flight's over. It took quick. We get there, Pat picks me up in Washington. It's about a 2-hour drive, beautiful scenery. We got to see some really incredible scenes. I'd slept the whole way. I slept like a baby on the plane, so I was pretty much buzzing by the time we got there. We got there fairly late. We had some chow. Of course, my geography knowledge on the US is not as great as what I thought. So now I never knew that. I thought the higher we were, the colder the conditions. So being up there close to Washington, I thought, how humid can it really be? Because the ocean's right there, which is cool. I mean, Port Elizabeth's really not one of the most humid places there is. Specifically anywhere along the South African coastline, it's not intensely humid. However, we land in Washington, and I walk outside the airport, And now I've got this massive suitcase. You got to pay a flipping arm and a leg to get a trolley. And I've got this massive suitcase. I got my bow, and I'm lugging a backpack. And now the sweat just starts crawling off of my face because of the humidity. And I'm like 2 minutes into standing outside. Anyway, we settle in. We head now. Like I was saying, my geography is a little bit blurred when it comes to my knowledge of where everything kind of is. And so anyway, my initial thought was that, okay, Maryland, I saw it on the map. I saw like there's a lot of like these little ravines and rivers running through, and there's like a massive network of water. But I never realized that it's like full blown Atlantic Ocean, you know. Excuse me. So we get there, and Pat's like, you're going to be eating seafood until you're sick of it. And I was like, there's only, you know, South Africa, we don't really get the best seafood. There's good seafood, but we don't get the best. So, of course, why not smash our faces? So the first night, anyway, we settle in. Of course, we have some seafood and discuss tomorrow's plans. So we had 2 days before, a day before we met our guide, 2 days before we hit the stands. So anyway, the first day we head out and we got to do a little bit of sightseeing, and I really got the grasp of what the conditions were. Number one, it was thick as hell. Number two, humidity was next level. Now I've just mentioned a couple of minutes ago that I'm training now for the half Ironman coming up next week. So I still had to try, in between this hunting, I still had to try and fit in some training regimes like a nice long run and all that sort of stuff. And the humidity was going to be perfect because harsh conditions would have trained my heat retention. I don't know what the fancy words they call it. But anyway, so that morning, the first morning I'm there, I head out and I'm like, I'll just do about a 2.5 mile run just to ease into it, get rid of the jet lag, you know, get the blood flowing through the legs, because my legs, obviously, when I fly, they swell up like you can't believe. I'm about 2 minutes into the run and I'm swamped by mosquitoes, like everywhere. And these mosquitoes, like, you can't swish them off of you. They don't. Because of the humidity and the sweat, they kind of stick to you like Velcro. So my arms, my legs, everywhere is covered with freaking mosquitoes. Now, I didn't think the night before, or I didn't think that morning while heading out, oh, we should just put some sort of mosquito repellent on. No, I just thought, well, South Africa, you know, they don't know what mosquitoes is, how hard, jeez, like it. Anyway, a 2.5 mile run took me a good hour to complete because I think I was scratching more than running. I mean, I think my heart rate climbed a couple of beats while I was just... But it's intense, guys. Like, I'm trying to... You know, not even with the tsetse flies in like Tanzania and stuff like that was it that intense of a concentration. Does that make sense? Like you get into these humid areas of covering where it's just like this thick bush. Like, the bush is not there to get you. Like, it's pretty easy to get through. I mean, once you're in like the pine trees and stuff that are there, it's not like massively thick where there's bushes hitting you in the face and stuff. It's just it's dense humidity. So there's so much bugs that are just surrounding you. So anyway, I get back from this run and I'm sitting there now and I'm contemplating, how the hell are we gonna hunt in these type of conditions? Like what have they got planned for us? Sure, I knew that what I anticipated that most of the hunting was going to be done in blinds, because you're hunting grasslands that are, you know, a good foot or two above what you stand. So your visual distance on the animal is non-existent. I mean, I'll never be able to spot a deer 150 yards away. Never ever. I mean, the grass and the marsh and all that sort of stuff. I mean, it's too high. It's too massive. And these deer are small. So if I had to put them in comparison, it's probably around about a bushback size. A lot more stockier, like more filled out. So call it like a French bulldog of bushback. Yes, that was a bad analogy. But body wise, I mean, I'll get into it, but that's pretty much what I can describe it as. So anyway, so I get back and I'm just like, oh, jeez, how are we going to do this? Like, these things, are we going to call them in? Or are we obviously going to have to bait them in some way? Are we hunting over lands? Are we hunting over fields? There's no ways we can be hunting over water points. Is the water brack that is too salty, and maybe they'll come into some fresh water? How are we doing things, right? So Pat now had gone the year before to this particular hunt, and he was unsuccessful because, number one, the weather was bad. Number two, he was going in rifle season. So the guy that he was going with, the same guy that we linked up with now, pretty much said to him last year, is like, look, I don't want to waste your time. Like, I mean, we can go out, but you're not going to see anything. So Pat also never really set foot into the hunting conditions, so he wasn't also really prepared for it. But while I was on this run, I was like, I need waders, I need gum boots, like ASAP, because the boots I brought along were never going to last me. I mean, the first day they would have been drenched in water, and it's that salt water, so it hardens your boots up. And nothing was ever going to dry there. I mean, there's no fire lit in the place where we were staying. So, I mean, you can put them outside in the sun, but with the humidity there, so they're never going to get 100% dry. So imagine hunting 4 days or 5 days in sopping wet boots. So I was like, we need to find a pair of gum boots. And I need to find like a pair of waterproof pants, because this is intense. Like, the humidity and the amount of water that's around is going to make things difficult. So anyway, carry on doing a little bit of research. We do a little bit more sightseeing. We have an incredible couple of days. I tried blue crab for the first time. I'm not a fan. A lot of guys are going to dislike me for that, because I think that's like a religion down there. Like, everywhere we went was like these big blue crab pictures, and everyone's having blue crab, and it's like this thing you do when you're down there. And I'll be honest, it wasn't me. It's like a buttery, mealy, textured animal to eat. I tried it. It was worth it. But yeah, not a fan. The Atlantic seaboard is like, it's completely different to what I'm used to down here. Now, we get the Indian Ocean and the Atlantic, but ours is Southern Atlantic. And there's good seafood down here. I realize that. We don't have the vast difference. Like, you guys have got all the crabs and all that sort of stuff. I mean, I'm sure we get it down here, but it's not easily accessible like it is up there. And so I just realized, like, that crab, not really my thing. Yeah, and I think you go through more effort breaking the damn thing open and trying to get the meat than you actually do by actually eating the meat and enjoying it, because it's kind of, but it's all part of the experience, right? So I enjoyed that part. I really did. I enjoyed going to buy the crab. I really enjoyed interacting with the different cultures in there, and it was so cool. Like, it was this tiny little, like, convenient diner store that we stayed very close to, which was awesome, because you would go there in the morning and have like a completely, like, very simple ham and cheese toasted sandwich with hand cut fries, and then like, you sit down in this like booth area, and then next to you is the archery shop, and you walk through this like little alleyway, and on the wall there's all the sake deer, the whitetails and things that have been shot. So it's like this very cool, like, niche little community type vibe, and I absolutely loved it. I mean, I went for a run the one morning, and I just got chatting with a guy that was fishing off the pier before work, and not off the pier, off like the one bridge there that we used. And I just got chatting to him. I was like, "Hey, bud, so like, you're obviously a hunter." He was dressed up in camo. I was like, so, he's like, you guys maybe a week a little early for the Sika deer rut, but they're gonna start bugling soon. We hope so. If the change of weather, the moon conditions, and all these sort of things that it brings into factor. And I look back and I'm listening to him talk, and he's so passionate about it. Like they live for the hunt of the Sika deer. Like that's inbred into their hunting culture and community, which is awesome. It's so cool to see, because you go to a lot of areas and it's big kudu hunting, big bushback hunting. I mean, just the other day I was down in Kumche, and the guys with their bushback with dogs, like that's their thing. Like, and so we're down in Maryland, and I get so excited talking about, because it's passion, it's right. So I mean, even the guy, so I think I took the wrong way. No, I didn't really, but I thought I did. So anyway, so like I'm running down the street, and shit, I'm lost. So this is the morning we were going to go and see the guard. So I'm running down the street, and I'm like, shit, we were lost. I marked myself on the restaurant we ate before, the night before, and it's called, what's it called? Was it Boats and Hose? Or Hose and Boats? I don't know, one of the two. But anyway, so I mark it on there, and I'm like, so I set sail, and I see this guy collecting, like he's got this massive garbage truck, and I see him collecting rubbish, and I start chatting to him. I'm like, listen, but I need your help. I'm lost. I don't know where to go. So he's like, where you staying? I'm like, I have no clue. I'm not from here. I'm from South Africa. He's like, oh, no ways. And we got chatting, and he's passionate about like he books off work. He was telling me he gets X amount of time a year. He books off work just so that him and his friends can go like Sika deer hunting. And I'm like, this is so cool. Like this animal species isn't even indigenous into this area, but it's made this area home. And these guys afforded the opportunity to thrive where it is. But the animal also offers them the opportunity to enjoy the culture that hunting brings. And I was like, this is such a cool little setup. Because, I mean, you just drive, and there's like these small little churches, and it's just such a beautiful little farming community, fishing, crabbing community type vibe. So anyway, I'm talking a lot about how passionate I am about just chatting to the different people that are there, and I wish I had a lot of them on mic. I wish I took my camera with me every time I went running, because not because I got lost on purpose, but because it's often those times that you just find that you have a lot more opportunities to talk to complete strangers about what they do, why they do it, and when they do it, So that was pretty cool. So anyway, so the Sunday we meet our guard. We rock up to it. And, later this week, we're going to do a podcast of ask Sean Koga to come back on, because there's a lot of questions I would like to ask. And one of which is conditioning, or the condition of the outfitter in the Northern Hemisphere. They essentially, the North American outfitter, and guys, please don't get me wrong, this is my opinion, but essentially the North American outfitter, I kind of get a feeling that he's just a glorified guide. Pretty much what I'm doing right now in South Africa. I find properties that are ethically sustainable to hunt. I go out, I hunt them with a very few limited amount of clients that come out every year. I pay the landowner. We help rejuvenate the land or put back into the herd for sustainable conservation. And then that way I keep getting to do what I want to do on other people's lands. And essentially that's what I get the feeling that's what those outfitters are. We glorify professional hunters that have just gone an extra step to take on a little bit more responsibility. But the presentation of some of the outfitters I've met, and I've met a couple, and this guy wasn't even the worst. And he wasn't bad by any means. It's just the presentation was just kind of sloppy. I mean, rocks up to meet us in his Crocs. He's laid back. His jeans are filthy. His shirt's got paint marks on and hole in. He's obviously doing a little bit of renovation in his home. His pickup is filthy. There's no signage on it. His quad bike on the back's got 2 punches, and it's leaning over to the side. And it's like, oh yeah, you just meet us tomorrow at 8 o'clock at this point, and we'll sort you guys out. Top 5. Now, I've flown halfway across the world to be on this hunt, and it means a lot to me. And that guy rocks up. Fortunately, I'm not the paying customer here, but that guy rocks up, and I'm like, yeah, my confidence levels kind of went from 100 down to like 25. I was like, how much work has gone into this? Because looking at the conditions, you would are going to have to bust your freaking ass off to make sure that you are in a sustainable area with a good number of deer. And I can see it. I can definitely see it from Pat's side. Pat's an extremely trustworthy fella, and he, no matter what you do, he will always be good to his word. And that's always something he's given me a lot of values in life that I've cherished for a very, very long time. And in some essence, it's the man I am today with thanks to the morals and values I've learned from him along the way. But I could see from a distance the optimism kind of fade in Pat, and he doesn't often show it a lot, but me and him, like I said, we've been on a number of adventures since 2016, so I've seen that glittering eyeball kind of fade off into the distance every now and then. But so it was. So that's what happened. Anyway, so the next day, 8 o'clock, we're on time at the post office, and one of his glorified guards are there. Picks us up, takes us to this property, literally a shop, like a shed for the South Africans listening. It's like a shed and a road driving through a pine forest with reeds in. That's it. That's our hunting condition. Excuse me. Of course, I don't know what Sika deer or what they favor. So, buzzing, bow, backpack full of stuff, water. I'm keen, I'm ready to go. Phone in my pocket, and we head out. And it's about 100 to 200 yard walk get to this place. And our South African never hunted in a tree stand before. 120 kilos, that's what's that, 240 pounds. Gets to this bottom of this pine tree, and there's this flimsy ass tree stand that goes about 6 meters into the air. I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, yeah, what have I got myself into? Never hunted out of a tree stand before. Anyway, get to the top, settle in, and now I'm shitting myself. I hate heights. I race motocross, but heights and me do not go well together. So anyway, I set up my camera that you're watching this podcast off on this little gorilla tripod that I've got, and everything's also delicate. To take my backpack, I take my straps off and I strap myself into the stand, and now I'm ready. But now I need to try and maneuver and see if I can draw my bow. So I'm I'm doing all these things and making quite a bit of a noise. So anyway, settle down and I sit in my tree stand and we freaking wait. Of course, this is my first day, so I'm buzzing, you know. I want to see activity, and there is absolutely nothing going on. In front of me, I got the feeder. I've got this little ravine that's running through this feeder that drops millies, and that is it. Around me, I've got a couple of pine trees, but there's nothing on the floor. There's just a pine needle, like bed of pine needles, and that's all I've got. And I'm like, if the deer come from the right, I'm going to see them from 20 yards or 30 yards away. No, more, 60 yards away. They come from the left, I'm going to see them from 60 yards away. But if they come straight out in front of me, I've got literally 5 yards before they get to that feeder. And then I've got to try and somehow pull this bow back incredibly quiet. Now my bow's hanging up to the right of me, just above me. And I've calculated all these things. I've watched numerous amounts of videos. I've contacted a bunch of different guys on how to hunt out of tree stands. You got to practice sitting down and shooting. I practiced standing up and shooting. I practiced, balancing on a wobble board and shooting. So I had this down to a T. I was confident. The situation I was put in, I was very, very confident. Where the animals were going to come from, I had no idea. Now, I've been a professional hunter for 13 years, and sitting in that scenario, I had no idea where any of it I could have anticipated it from. And that's not just because I didn't know the species or anything, that's just because the terrain I was set up in. So personally, when I look back at it and I say, was that the best scenario for me to be in? And I don't think so personally. However, who am I to say? I mean, these guys have been doing it for a couple of years, so of course they had some sort of knowledge on where these animals were going to come from. But anyway, first day, a complete freaking bust. From morning till noon, or till night, nothing. I saw a bunch of squirrels, which was flipping cool to me. I've never seen a squirrel like that in my life. So that was a lot of fun. I saw cardinals, and I keep forgetting this freaking bird, but it's a blue bird, but I know it's a baseball logo. So much fun to see these animals, but you do hope that even if it was a bunch of females that came into the herd, so we were allowed to shoot females, by the way. That was one of the cool experiences on this trip was actually purchasing a deer tag. It's still yes, obviously I didn't use it, but that was cool. I really enjoyed that. It cost me a freaking fortune. Well, I say a fortune, it's kind of relative, but I mean, I think it was like $550. Most expensive piece of paper I own, but it was cool. It was really, really cool. The experience was wonderful. I felt like I was a part of the hunting community. I was a part of conservation in North America, which was really, really awesome. So, yeah, that was a moment I'll take back for me for a very long time. So anyway, day one, complete bust. Day two, same stand, same conditions, same everything. Absolutely nothing. I had a bunch of ducks come in the morning. I was like, that is flipping cool, but that's not what I want to see. But same scenario. Absolutely nothing happened. The squirrels were there, the ducks were there, and that was it. Day three, we shift up things a little bit, and we head to a completely different blind. Now, the blind I was at was, on day three, was pretty cool, because it overlooked like a harvested field of soybeans, but it kind of had like a lip on it, and I was in that in a bowl, and you could see that the deer were using it as like they were coming straight across that bowl, and the feeder was slap bang in the middle of it. And I was very hopeful for this setup. I had a much bigger tree stand. I wasn't as high. The shot was very close. It was 25 yards I ranged if they were to come into the feeder. But from as far as I could see, my longest shot was going to be a 42-yard shot. and I was pretty confident. So if I saw him stick his head out at 42 yards, I was gonna fling an arrow because I was that confident. Anyway, so the first day in that newsstand, day 3, sit, absolutely nothing. You could hear a lot of activity, and I could hear in the distance them starting to bugle, and I'm not 100% sure whether that was a Sika deer, male or female, but it was kind of like a squeaky bugle sound. But you could hear them, and I was very, very hopeful. And just behind me was like a complete big swamp ravine. So anyway, day 3, complete bust again. We just saw a bunch of squirrels, a bunch of cardinals boxing it out around the millies, corn or whatever it is. But that was it. And then day 4, the last day, frustrating because again, absolutely nothing until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Out of the corner of my eye, I heard like a lot of rustling, and I knew it was a deer. I knew it was, because it kind of gave me, I'm trying to think of a comparison. It kind of gave me like a lechwe creeping vibe, like when a lechwe walks through a swamp, like you can hear, like figuring everything out. So I reach up and I grab my bow, I knock my arrow, and I'm sitting there very quietly because I can still hear the rustling going on. And I put my trigger on, and I'm waiting, and I'm waiting, and I'm waiting. And just like that, I watch this deer shoot out, come across the opening, and go and stand in that 38-yard range. And I can see it's a small spiker. It's probably got about 6 or 7 inch horns on it, and it's a whitetail. It's not a Sika deer. And I know we can shoot these because they're on our tag. And it looks me dead in the eye, and I haven't moved. I haven't done anything wrong, and I'm suspecting it centered me, but I'm sitting dead still. It looks forward. I draw back, and before I look again, it shoots off into the bush. And I was just like, man, like I don't know if I would have taken it. Although the last 3 days were so frustrating, not seeing anything, to be able to witness that, it was flipping cool. That was worth every minute I sat in those tree stands. It was an absolutely unbelievable experience. So anyway, after day 2, Patton was just kind of like, you know what, I'm done. You guys can carry on going hunting, but I'm done. And I'm glad he stuck it out. Although we never saw anything, we never shot anything. Between the 4 of us, 4 hunters, nothing was shot, nothing was seen. We saw 2 whitetail, and that was it the whole time we were there. But the experience was one that was so cool, man. It's so cool because it's completely different. And I look back at that experience and I think to myself how lucky us South Africans, or Africans really are, because in 4 days you'll come out here to South Africa and you'll see 10 different species, easy, without a doubt. If you're planning to come and hunt in South Africa in 4 days, you could easily see 10 species of animals, and not just 1 or 2 of them, like abundance of them. And I thought that was so interesting, and this is why I kind of went there with a lot of questions, and I'm leaving with even more, because I want to know what the situation is, like why are the numbers so limited, and not just to Sika deer, because apparently Sika deer are thriving. We were just in the completely, because so this is how this whole hunting works out. So the next day, obviously we're not hunting. We've got 2 days to chill and do a bit of more sightseeing and stuff. So we head along to the opposite side of the bay to go and grab a bite to eat at a completely different restaurant. So we get that side, and of course there's a guy there sitting in his camos and same old story, they live for the Sika deer hunt. And it's like, hey guys, what you guys doing? Yeah, you from Arizona, from South Africa. I was like, oh man, you guys have come a long way. How's it been? And we're like, it hasn't been quite successful. It hasn't been what we initially thought it would be. I was like, oh no, man, you guys are here way too early. You should have come here the next week in, Murphy's Law, in what's it, black powder season or whatever it is. And we just, oh man, yeah. He's like, no, don't worry. Next time I've got you guys. We'll link up and I'll put you in contact with some good guys. And that community over there is like just opened my eyes to a whole new world or perspective of how hunting is. I can see now from that point of view why Americans are so passionate about hunting, because it's a community driven thing. For me at the moment, it's one of the hardest things out there is to try and find land to bring clients and hunt on sustainably, because everybody's out there, they're jealous, they bitter on how you run things. They think they know what they're doing. They don't really know what they're doing. They want you to do things their way. And at the end of the day, there's no storybook or there's no rules to say that you're doing it the correct way or not. However, in America, no matter what the situation, I feel like there's a very close-knit community that sticks up for one another. And yes, there's all this bickering going on. Oh no, but if you're a crossbow hunter and this, that, and the next thing, deep down inside, they still all lie together for the same values. And there's no problem with that, but they need to figure out sooner rather than later on why they need to protect one another as much as they possibly can, because they've got a lot more to lose than what we do. Their species are very few. They've only got a few species compared to. So, I mean, they can take 3 species away here in South Africa, and we still could go out no matter where, when, and what, and still do a fair bit of hunting. In America, they can take a couple of species away, 1 or 2, 3 species away, and there are limited areas where they can hunt species. There are limited areas where they can get tags. Their system is so intense compared to what ours are. And yet, they need to stick up for one a lot more than what we do. We're still very, very fortunate that a lot of guys, I can walk down the road here, a lot of guys can shit talk about me and all that sort of stuff, and we can have a couple of species taken off the list, but we can still go and do a couple of more hunts and hunt some incredible species out there without, having to tick some boxes. But in essence, my point I'm trying to get across is that we're not in that delicate stage yet that we need to be buddy with everyone, because we're all trying to achieve the same goal. That's how I would like it, don't get me wrong. That's how I want it. But America now, they're realizing very, very fast that their community, they have to start looking after everybody, from muzzleloaders to black gun, bow, compound, crossbow, whatever it is. They need to look after their fellow hunter, because if species or certain areas get taken away from them, it's a very, very, very small percentage of opportunity that they get to go and do something that they are so, so passionate about. They live that stuff. I'll never, I mean, I wear my camos with pride, because that's just who I am. I'll wear a Trump cap to go out in, or to go to the grocery store or whatever. But those guys live it. They live it every single day. I mean, they're putting on their camos every day. It's their everyday workwear. I mean, the guy that was lifting garbage truck, he had a camo jacket on, camo pair of pants and boots. He literally was going to go and offload the trash and then start hunting. And that's what they do. That's how they live life. They're passionate about it. They're driven for it. I mean, it's their way of socializing. It's their way of sharing memories and excursions with one another. And that's cool. That's so cool. And that's why I think I leave there disappointed I never shot anything. But I left there with a greater understanding of what it means to actually be a true hunter and a true conservationist. Because those guys have got it at heart. And they believe whatever they're doing it the right way. Regardless whether it is working or not. But they're honestly there for their commodity to be first, their animals, and their livelihood second. And it's a special way to see things. I think I'm forever grateful for sharing or to get to experience that. And I hold it very dear to my heart. I will do. But yeah, man, what an experience. Came back to South Africa empty-handed, but with a wealth of knowledge. That's for sure. And one that I hope to instill in my own practicing as a hunter and as a conservationist, because that's ultimately been my biggest goal, is how can I walk around here saying to myself that I'm a true conservationist at heart when I haven't experienced other opportunities of hunting and how things are done differently. Because ultimately the perfect conservation pattern will be to take all the models that are working across the world, bring them home and implement them and see how it does. But that's not always going to be the case. So why not learn as much as you possibly can, implement it in your circles and see how far you can stretch it. And that's the important part. So yeah, I mean, my first attempt in North America, not always successful. Not successful when it comes to bag limits, but experience, it was overwhelmingly successful, and I'm forever grateful for that. So yeah, but guys, yeah, like mentioned before, I've got some exciting things lined up this week. We're gonna start ending off the podcast for the season, and then jump into it in January. Unfortunately, I'll be scheduling my marketing trips a little bit different for next year, but my final episode will be launching in December and explaining a little bit more about what I've got planned for 2025, because that's going to be a bumper year. I'm really looking forward to that one. And as I say that, my camera's battery decided to check out on me. So guys, once again, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Guys on Carbon TV. Welcome to my first solo episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm going to close this one off pretty soon. We've got some exciting things lined up for this week, so stay tuned to find out a couple more episodes that are going to be launching early next week and later next week. I'm really looking forward to that one. Well, once again, if you are, happy hunting. Until then, stay safe, stay blessed, and stay humble. We'll catch up with you guys soon.